I stepped to the door to watch them stick my brother in the back of a black Ford Crown Victoria. Apparently, the Newburgh Police Department had gotten a pretty good deal on the model. I stayed on the curb until the Ford pulled down the street and out of sight. The few people on the street didn't seem interested in a non-violent arrest. When I stepped back inside, I said to the bartender, "Who's Lise?" The surly bartender barely looked up from the ledger he was working on and said, "Best attorney this side of the city. She changed everything when she showed up last year. Natty is as good as out on this bullshit. I just called her and she said you can go by her office around 5. She'll know something by then after she talks to the DA." That was more words than the bartender had ever spoken to me. I debated calling my mom, but wanted to have more information first, so I drove around Newburgh to get a better feel for the city. It had a bad reputation, but I had learned that cities, just like people, rarely matched the way they were portrayed in the media. Almost every other year, Newburgh was listed as the most dangerous city in upstate New York, or given some title like murder capital of the state. And to be fair, it had been flooded with drugs, guns, and gangs, in that order. But there were a lot of people trying to make it a better place to live. People who understood that working with at-risk kids could have the biggest payoff down the road. I noticed adults coaching kids in every park, and mothers keeping a close eye on their toddlers as they played. They were families, and that meant there was still hope for Newburgh. I found the law office on Ann Street near downtown. The building was a typical 3-story brick block-shaped structure with a little grocery store stuck awkwardly to the side. Lise Mendez's office was on the second floor, and of course there was no elevator. The building housed a couple of lawyers, an accountant, and a financial planner. It was a drug dealer's dream. When I found the right door, there was no name painted on the glass, just a card taped in the corner. This did not instill confidence as I stepped into the room and realized the reception area was unused and empty except for a couple of chairs. I heard a voice in the inner office say, "In here." I stepped through the door to find Lise Mendez standing behind a large, ornate desk that didn't seem to go with the office. She had a pretty face and long black hair tied in a loose ponytail. She was probably 35 and radiated that sort of professional confidence that came from a good education and some success in her field. She said, "You must be Nathaniel's brother." She extended her hand. "I am." I glanced around and noticed that her office, unlike the reception area, was packed with boxes and files, which to me was a good sign because it meant she was busy. She said, "What's your name?" "Mitchum." "Your name is Mitchum?" I didn't feel like explaining, and I wanted to hear about my brother, so I just said, "That's what everyone calls me." I glanced over at the wall nearest me and noticed her diploma. I looked at her and said, "Impressive. Harvard Law. Surprised you're not with one of the big firms in the city." "I was, but I moved back here for family reasons." Now she pulled Natty's file from a stack on her desk and motioned me to sit down. I noticed my brother's file was pretty thick. I said, "Natty called me to look into the death of his friend." "Pete Stahl?" "I know. I represented him, too. Why did your brother ask you to look into it?" "I'm sort of an unofficial private investigator, and he—" "Nathaniel told me you delivered papers." "I do both." I decided I wanted to change the subject. Fast. "Do I owe you any money for this yet?" The pretty attorney shook her head and said, "No, your brother keeps me on retainer. Granted, it's normally for narcotics cases, but let's see what happens with this. So far, all they have is the gun used to kill Pete, and unfortunately, Nathaniel's fingerprints and potentially his DNA are on the gun. There are no witnesses, nothing else. Do you believe Natty when he says he had nothing to do with it?" "I don't have to believe him. I just have to make sure his rights aren't violated, and that means that I'll protect him. If he had nothing to do with the murder, and I protect his rights, he'll be a free man soon enough." "Have you handled many cases like this?" "A few." "How many defendants walked free?" "Every single one who deserved to. This isn't a sporting event where you keep score. I'll do my best. If that isn't good enough, there are other attorneys in town." I considered what she had said and nodded, then said, "Do you think they'll let me visit Natty tonight?" "They usually don't."